Lately, a series of clips from Candace Owens' recent interview on the Shawn podcast has been making waves across the internet, sparking a whirlwind of reactions and heated discussions. Although the full interview is currently locked behind a paywall, set for official release tomorrow Thursday, people are already buzzing about what she revealed. The anticipation is so high that I'm seriously considering doing an extra live stream alongside you all when it drops, so we can watch it together, break it down in real time, and I can share my honest thoughts as the story unfolds. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, be sure to let me know in the comments. Now, while I won't be showing you any of the clips themselves today, I do want to walk you through some of the most talked about moments that have been circulating on Twitter, especially the ones that caught the attention of people like Andrew Colvert and Blake, who have been hotly debating Candace's attempts to get clear answers from Turning Point USA (TPUSA) on a long-standing case. For those who don't know, Candace has been pushing for transparency and explanations for quite a while, and many are wondering if this exclusive interview might finally shed light on what she's been searching for. Let's rewind to where it all started. Andrew Colvert was among the first to share a clip from the Shawn interview featuring Candace, and he didn't hold back, labeling the content as false, absolute lies, and garbage. Interestingly, the clip he posted wasn't even from Shawn official accounts, keep in mind. The full episode is still behind a paywall today. In fact, the person who originally shared the clip was Faith Driver, who added a caption suggesting a strategic move that Erica Kirk left Charlie's funeral with Andrew Colvert to join a three-way call with a surgeon, presumably to coordinate their stories. She even tagged Shawn and Candace Owens directly. I want to be clear today, I won't be playing any of these clips. Shawn has always been incredibly generous when it comes to other creators using his content. He rarely enforces copyright claims, and in fact, many podcasts freely cut and reuse his interviews. Out of respect for that spirit, and to keep things fair, I'll stick to describing the content rather than sharing it directly. So sit tight, because there's a lot to unpack here, and we're just getting started. Keep in mind, this interview is still locked behind a paywall, so I'll save my full reaction video for tomorrow when it officially drops. Like I mentioned before, I might even go live to break down and analyze some of the most riveting parts, especially the segments tied to Charlie Kirk's case. I want to make sure I explain everything clearly, piece by piece, so those who can't access the full interview won't miss out on the critical details. Of course, if you want, you can always head over to X and watch the clips yourself ahead of time. Now, diving into this particular clip, Candace essentially reveals that Jason's team reached out to her husband, asking if she had recorded the video Terrell had shown her, the one capturing Charlie from behind. What really stands out here is the level of panic they were in. On the very day of Charlie's funeral, the actual funeral, not the memorial, they were scrambling. Andrew and Erica even jumped on a three-way call with the surgeon and concocted a story about a modern-day Christian miracle, claiming Charlie was eating tons of vegetables and had a neck made of steel. But here's the kicker. As you heard, Andrew insists none of that is true. So what exactly is he denying? That's the burning question Candace raises on X. She boldly asks, "Which part of this are you specifically saying is false, Andrew?" There's no dodging this one, because I'm absolutely certain Erica was on that call with Dr. Trotter. It was a three-way conversation. The surgeon didn't just go off on her own. That quote about Charlie being a man of steel with a healthy diet, it came directly from her. So Andrew, what exactly are you disputing here? The way Candace frames this puts Andrew in the hot seat, pushing for clarity on the facts versus the fabricated elements of the story. It's this moment that really sets the stage for what comes next, diving deeper into the tangled truths and conflicting narratives swirling around Charlie's case. Here's where things get tangled, and the evasion really starts to show. Andrew insists on nitpicking over some technical detail, like claiming they never actually stepped outside the funeral, even though it was unmistakably on the very same day as the funeral itself. It's almost like he's deliberately trying to cloud the timeline, dodging the bigger questions that everyone is desperate to understand. Come on, Andrew, be precise, don't dance around the facts. From the outset, it felt like we were hitting a wall, constantly brushing up against vague responses or explanations designed to distract rather than clarify. Instead of shedding light, all we got were trivial tidbits like random stories about a shopping spree that didn't answer a single significant question. Then, Candace steps up and cuts right through the fog with something that hits harder. Are you seriously telling me Justin Strive didn't call my husband? Are you denying the FBI ever communicated with Turning Point USA, asking if I'd recorded anything? I have undeniable proof of both interactions, so please, Andrew, tell us exactly what you're calling a lie. Her words sliced through the confusion, demanding honesty. What part of this story is really untrue? Every one of those points deserves a clear, transparent answer. From what I gather, Andrew's claim that he spoke with the surgeon on the day of Charlie's funeral seems genuine. He even posted about it publicly that day. And here's something crucial that adds another layer to the mystery. Andrew shared that he wanted to address the rumors swirling around the absence of an exit wound from Charlie's injury. He admitted he usually avoids diving into these kinds of online debates, mostly because the details can get graphic, but in this case, he felt compelled to clarify. According to Andrew, the fact that there wasn't an exit wound might actually represent yet another miracle in this tragic story. He said he just spoke with the surgeon who treated Charlie in the hospital. This was on September 20th, the day before the big memorial service. The surgeon reportedly told him the bullet absolutely should have passed all the way through, which is what typically happens with high-powered, fast-moving ammunition like this. Andrew added that, from what he's seen in his experience, wounds from this kind of caliber very often have exit wounds, so the absence here is highly unusual. This detail only deepens the intrigue surrounding the circumstances of Charlie's injury, raising more questions than answers and compelling us all to look closer. Time and time again, the bullet was said to have pierced through everything in its path. Normally, something like that would have taken down a moose or an elk, large, solid animals that show just how deadly such a force can be. Yet, incredibly, it didn't go through Charlie's body. He acted like an unyielding shield. When I brought this up to his doctor, I pointed out the dozens of students and special guests who were standing right behind Charlie at the moment he was shot. This was no accident. The bullet stopped with him, sparing everyone else. The doctor simply called it a Christian miracle. It was as if Charlie was divinely protecting those around him, literally saving lives in his final moments. That thought rings heavy, doesn't it? Even in the face of danger, Charlie put others before himself, a true testament to his spirit. Then there's Candace's observation, which sparked a wave of intense discussion, especially online. Blake jumped straight in, defending Erica's name with fervor in the comments. He challenged the claim about Erica peeling off from Charlie's funeral to take a phone call, calling it a repulsive falsehood. Candace had used that exact phrase in her video. Erica and Andrew peeled off from Charlie's funeral, so what did she mean? It's important to understand that this was all happening on the day of Charlie's funeral. There were moments before, during, and after the service when people stepped away for various reasons. Candace's point was simple. At some point on that day, Erica and Andrew took a moment away to handle a call. But Blake's defense only tackled that single detail. What about everything else? Candace brought up the mysterious three-way phone call, the invented bionic neck story, and the claim of a Christian miracle. She was exposing a carefully crafted narrative, a strategy to explain things in a way that didn't hold up under scrutiny. The bigger picture remains far more complex than a single phrase or event. One glaring detail that stood out was the fact that Charlie didn't have any exit wound on the day of his funeral, a detail that nobody seemed to want to address seriously. Instead, people deflected with odd explanations or outright denial, which only deepened the mystery. Then, someone chimed in with a classic line, "This is why nobody believes you guys, lol." And honestly, it's hard not to agree. Anyone with even the smallest bit of common sense could figure out that when someone says peeling off at a funeral, it doesn't literally mean walking out of the ceremony. It could simply mean stepping into another room, or maybe stepping outside for a breath of fresh air. But nope, those nuances get ignored every single time. The things they pick to argue about are so trivial, it almost feels like a distraction tactic, laughable really. Andrew didn't let the bait slip by. He jumped in to clarify the exact post Candace had responded to, pointing out that someone had taken her words way too literally. So, naturally, he had to respond, right? And according to him, if someone's misinterpreting her comments, then that's entirely Candace's fault. But here's where things get interesting. By focusing on just this tiny, literal twist of a phrase, Andrew and Blake accidentally confirmed everything else Candace implied. It's like they were trying so hard to shut down one small point, that they let the bigger picture slip through the cracks. That's the impression I get anyway. Truth has this funny way of surfacing no matter how aggressively it gets buried. and this situation is no exception. Candace may not sugarcoat her words, she can be rough around the edges, maybe a bit blunt or intense when she discusses these topics. And sure, she's not a specialist in every field, so mistakes happen. But what really exposes the cracks is when she makes bold claims and Andrew and Blake decide to zero in on one minor phrase or attack just a tiny element of her statement. Their fixation almost seems desperate, like they're revealing their own vulnerability without meaning to. Meanwhile, the comment sections are flooding with people who aren't buying any of their rebuttals. The general feeling? They aren't convinced by Andrew and Blake's explanations, no matter how hard they try. And really, based on these weak attempts to discredit Candace, it seems she didn't just catch them off guard, she scored a direct hit. This wasn't just a small slip or a vague misunderstanding, it was a calculated technical falsehood that revealed something much deeper. It confirmed that on the very day of Charlie's funeral, Erica had been in conversation with the surgeon. Why does that matter? Because it meant Andrew was caught off guard, unable to craft a believable public explanation for why there was no exit wound from the reported 30-06 gunshot. Now, put yourself in their shoes. Imagine the scrambling panic behind the scenes. At Charlie's funeral, an already heart-wrenching, overwhelming moment, they were on the phone, frantically trying to explain what could not be logically explained. What could they possibly say? How could they make sense of a detail so glaring it defied the official story? Candace shared her perspective on having seen this video, adding layers to the tension. They discover the footage, realize it's out there, and are forced to face the truth, or at least the skepticism, while in the middle of grieving. It raises this key question. Why was it so critical to cover up or distort this particular fact? That's exactly what we're unraveling here. And the reactions online paint a vivid picture of public distrust. One comment stings with raw honesty, "Blake, you can try to twist the story all you want, but we just don't trust you anymore." People are recognizing that Charlie's openness, her genuine willingness to ask tough questions and speak plainly about what didn't add up, destroyed any illusion of credibility or honesty in the opposing narrative. Critics kept calling out the empty responses. Guess what? You did exactly what she predicted. You never actually addressed the real questions. Surprise, surprise. This frustration echoed across conversations. They even reposted the initial clip, exposing how some individuals continuously spin wild, unsubstantiated stories. It wasn't about uncovering the truth anymore. It was about stirring up as much chaos and hurt as possible for the sake of views and emotional reactions. Instead of calmly disproving the supposed falsehood shown in the video, they doubled down, becoming the very thing they once mocked. You might remember how they used to label others as snowflakes, quick to be offended by anything lacking reasoned debate, but now the roles have flipped entirely, revealing an exhausting cycle of defensive outrage without meaningful dialogue. The irony is unmistakable and frankly impossible to ignore. They were deeply hurt by what was said to them. Now, I ask you, can you honestly tell me that this description doesn't fit Blake Neff? Let's break it down one by one, claim by claim, all the accusations Candace made. Which ones are outright fabrications, and which hold a kernel of truth? The reality is, they can't clearly point to a single falsehood or confirm a single truth without stumbling. Why is that? It's almost like they're trapped in their own little bubble, recycling the same tired narratives over and over. Someone even remarked how entertaining it is to watch their endless game of echo chambers and musical chairs. The predictability of their talking points is uncanny. They spin in circles, always hitting the same notes as if it's all programmed, rehearsed, and lacking any fresh perspective. It's high time we flip the script and put a new record on. Honestly, I've found a bit of relief with Candace stepping away from the spotlight this week. Things quieted down, a calm after the storm. But of course, peace is short-lived in this saga because out of nowhere, this phony interview emerges. Andrew Colvard quickly responded with yet another brief clip, highlighting Candace's statements alongside the caption, "False absolute lies and garbage." This clip is making waves, and the caption continues, "As part owner of the Charlie Kirk Show, Andrew Colvard lost millions when Charlie Kirk refused to accept funding from Bibi." Now, Candace in that clip repeats a claim she insists she's heard multiple times from someone within Charlie's own circle, that Andrew suffered massive financial losses because Charlie declined a deal with Bibi. So, the question remains, what part of this story is untrue? Is Andrew really a part owner? Did Bibi ever make an offer to Charlie? Did Charlie refuse to accept funding? Which of these elements falls apart under scrutiny? What's the truth hiding beneath these layers? Adding to the intrigue, Andrew himself has openly admitted that he sometimes fabricates stories for the sake of public relations. He confessed that he wanted to lie, but was stopped by Charlie's integrity sometimes, at least once. So, in a world full of half-truths and spinning tales, Charlie Kirk's honesty stands out, proving that sometimes, even in the whirlwind of controversy, there's still a foundation of transparency and willingness to engage in open dialogue. Diving into the realm of difficult conversations, Andrew Colbert's story takes a complicated turn. While Andrew himself might live by a code of honesty, the people he left behind seem to operate by very different rules less rooted in truth and more tangled in uncertainty. Hearing from Andrew in his own voice adds layers to this mystery, raising new questions. What really keeps Andrew from slipping into falsehoods now? Or perhaps, have those small, seemingly harmless white lies quietly woven themselves into his everyday life? It's a question that lingers, prompting us to wonder about the shades of truth and deception that color his current reality. Anna Escobar brought up a sharp, insightful query that really hits at the heart of the matter. She asks, is it possible that the lies persist because TV USA 2 accepted the money that Charlie refused? In other words, did the financial transaction change the rules of honesty in subtle, unseen ways? It's a question that demands a clear response, and Andrew's answer or lack thereof would reveal much about the dynamics at play. But the conversation doesn't stop there. As always, the internet's notorious trolls quickly surfaced, eager to throw cheap jabs and distractions, this time targeting Candace. Among the many heated moments, one clip stands out. Candace discusses conflicting accounts from Frank Turek and Brian Harpole about whether CPR was performed during the emergency transport of Charlie to the hospital. Turek claimed CPR was administered inside the car, while Harpole stated it wasn't. The contradiction is striking. During the clip, Shawn asks Candace whether CPR is typically performed in situations like Charlie's. She leans toward a cautious yes, reasoning that jump-starting the heart seems logical under those circumstances. However, she quickly clarifies that she's not taking a definitive stance on what's medically correct. "I'm not here to say what's right or wrong," she says, emphasizing her uncertainty about the actual protocol. Instead, she focuses on the inconsistency itself. Why would two key witnesses offer such differing stories? This disconnect is what Candace zeroes in on. It's important to remember Candace isn't a medical professional. She's not an EMT, a nurse, or a surgeon who could definitively say what should have happened. When Shawn pressed her, she shared her best understanding but openly admitted she doesn't know what the perfect response to such a trauma is. She only knows the facts as reported. One person says CPR happened, the other says it didn't. For her, that mystery begs more questions than answers, and that's where the real tension lies. Things to assume about what she should or shouldn't know. Then I started seeing posts like this one that really caught my attention. As the wife of a firefighter and EMT with over 20 years of experience, I've heard every kind of story. What really puzzles me are those entitled spouses who suddenly act like experts in emergency care just because their partner has a job like this. It's almost amusing how some people think CPR is the first and only thing you should do in trauma situations. In reality, stopping the bleeding and making sure the injured person gets to the hospital as quickly as possible are what truly matter. CPR at that stage, especially on trauma patients, has a shockingly low success rate, often under 7%, if we're being generous. Candace's situation now felt like it needed a whole new level of understanding, like she'd have to go back to medical school to grasp all these nuances. And just to be clear, Candace herself hasn't claimed expert status. She doesn't come off like someone who's trying to say, "Hey, I know what's medically right or wrong." Instead, her main point has always been that there were two very different versions of what happened, told by two people who shared the same car ride to the hospital. That's what she's emphasizing, the confusion and contradiction between these accounts. But as usual, the conversation quickly turned into deflection instead of addressing those discrepancies directly. Honestly, I felt I had to weigh in on this. Candace clearly stated in her video that she didn't know the right medical procedure, and she never claimed otherwise. She's not a medical professional, so it's unfair for anyone to expect her to act like one or to judge her knowledge as if she were one. This whole situation felt like a tangle of emotions, misinformation, and people trying to claim authority where none was warranted. Amidst all the noise, Candace's real message got lost, and that's what truly demanded some clarity and understanding. Here's the deal. We have two crucial witnesses giving completely different versions of the same event. On one hand, Turek insists CPR was performed, while on the other hand, Harpel says it wasn't done at all. That's the real inconsistency we're examining here, the heart of the issue. But instead of diving into that glaring contradiction and trying to make sense of it, what do we get? A bunch of distractions and sidesteps, focusing on trivial jabs rather than the core facts. She definitely responded to me, no doubt there. But did she really address the crucial point? Did she confront the uncomfortable truth that Turek and Harpel can't even agree on such a fundamental detail? Absolutely not. Instead, she shrugs it off like, oh wow, two conflicting accounts? That's totally unheard of in human history. Then she jumps straight to wild conspiracy theories, suggesting maybe these two were somehow involved in causing harm to Charlie Kirk himself. It's like watching someone grab onto every possible distraction instead of the actual question. Honestly, I expected better. I was hoping for a thoughtful, rational discussion that would shed some light on these contradictions. But no, it's the same old routine. We point out the moon, the big, obvious truth, and they insist on staring at some crooked finger instead. It's exhausting and, frankly, disappointing. Now, I really want to hear from you. Why do you think Andrew Colvett, Blake Neff, and others keep sidestepping these important questions? Is it just a coincidence? Or do you think there's a deliberate strategy to avoid facing the facts head-on? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious to know what you all think. If you found this video insightful, please hit that like button and don't forget to share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode of Daily Fredo. For even more updates and exclusive content, follow me on Instagram and X at Daily Fredo. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care and stay curious.